Welcome back to the 30-day yoga challenge. It's day 11. Good for you for staying committed and sticking with us through this yoga challenge to do 11 days worth of yoga. Right on. And don't forget, you can always go back to earlier videos if you want to extend your practice or just return to something that was challenging or something that you found beneficial to you. For day 11, for today's yoga practice, we're going to be focusing on the cardiovascular benefits of yoga. Now, interestingly, there's two different portions of a yoga practice that we do. There tends to be the more strenuous yoga postures that put a load on your system, challenge your heart, get your blood moving through your system. That would be the more cardiovascularly challenging part of the practice. But then there's also the stress reduction, the relaxation, the more supine postures where we're lowering blood pressure. And we try to find a mix between those things. And we're going to be playing with that today, having you specifically pay attention to how your cardiovascular system, your breathing, your blood pressure, your heart rate responds to the yoga practice. All right, let's get started. Let's begin today's practice with a supine shavasana posture. So perhaps laying on your back if that's comfortable for you, feet splayed out, palms facing up, arms out at the side of the body. Or if you're experiencing some low back pain, go ahead, bring a bend to the knees, feet flat on the mat or on the ground. You may even wish to use a blanket, a bolster, just to support your body. But let's just start with a resting relaxation pose to begin. If laying on your back is just not accessible to you, also consider grabbing a chair or a stool to sit so that you're relaxed and so that you're not engaged. And let's just begin here by taking a breath on purpose, feeling what it's like to be in this moment. Notice the sensations of breathing. Really feel your belly fill with air. And notice your belly collapse, pushing the air out of your body. And see if you can pay attention to any of the minute details that might be present to you here. For example, noticing how your clothing shifts as you breathe in. Maybe your clothing becomes slightly tighter. And noticing how your clothing shifts as you breathe out, becoming looser. Now, because we're not challenging our hearts here, because we're not really putting a load on our system, you may not notice your heart beating. So maybe just focus on how smoothly the breath flows. If it took you a moment to get down onto the ground, was there a difference between when you first went from sitting or standing to laying on the ground to now, laying back and just breathing? And what I mean by that is, notice the quality of the breath. Is it shallow? Is it labored? Is it deep? Smooth? And just allow yourself to notice any judgments that show up about your breath right now and come back to paying attention to your breath. Notice that it's there, moving. Now really pay attention to your breath as we follow these next steps. If you're sitting, find yourself sitting upright in a comfortable posture so that you're sitting tall but not rigid through the spine. If you're laying down, let's begin to bring a bit of motion into our bodies, like a wiggle of the fingers, wiggling the toes, rotating through the wrists, through the ankles. Now slowly, take a breath in and lean to your right side, rolling over onto your right. Use your left hand to balance your body and begin to sit up, coming into a seated posture. With your legs crossed in any comfortable posture, let your arms rest wherever they are. Let's take a breath here. Notice the quality of your breath now. Just breathe normally. And notice if even getting up from laying down put a little bit of stress on your heart, a little bit of a strain on your system. From seated, let's go ahead and sweep our arms out to the sides. Spread wide through your fingers, press through the tips of your fingers. See if you can sit nice and tall, pressing through the crown of your head, maybe even tucking your chin. Now moving together, let's inhale, lifting the eyes up. Exhale, fold your hands. Together, hands come down to heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms, lift up. All the way up. Exhale your hands back down to heart center. Your hands come together. One more time. Looking up, exhaling, bringing your hands down to heart center. Allow yourself to breathe normally and check in. How has that movement affected your breathing? Are you noticing your heart rate now? One more time, let's sweep the arms up all the way. Inhale, looking up, exhale, hinge at your hips, fold forward as you bring your hands down. Let's fold all the way forward, take our first forward bend of the day. Really reach through those hands, find some length in your spine. And keep your arms engaged if your upper body is having some difficulty, maybe through the low back, getting down nice and low. Remember the purpose of this posture, this forward bend here, isn't to have your head on the ground. It's to just find some length through your spine, to hinge at those hips and allow your upper body to drape over. And from here, once more, notice your breath. Your breath is a good indication around how much stress is on your system. And if you can't be aware of your heart beating, you can at least be aware of how your breath moves. Now let's do that contrasting. How is your breath different now than it was at the beginning of our practice when you were laying on your back and I had you pay attention to your heart rate or to your breath moving? Is it shallower now? More labored? Are you being very conscious of your breath and manipulating it so that it's purposefully deeper and smoother? No wrong answers. The whole purpose of this practice is to pay attention to your breath. All right, let's reach those hands forward. Go ahead, spread wide through the fingers, pressing your hands, coming back up into seated. In any way that's comfortable for you, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and stand up, but move with an inhale. Take your time to come up to standing. Bringing your big toes together, your heels slightly apart. Let's just stand here with our mountain pose, maybe arms to the side. You may wish to go ahead and turn your palms, shining out. And once more, take a breath here. Take stock of how your breath is moving, where your heart rate is at. Was getting up from being seated to standing challenging for your cardiovascular system? We may have just increased your heart rate, increased your blood pressure by having you go from laying to seating, seated, and seated to standing. From here, let's go ahead and sweep the arms all the way up, lifting the gaze. Let's get our heart rate up. Exhale your hands to heart center. One more time, inhale, sweep all the way up. Now from here, go ahead and interlace your fingers. Index fingers pointing up, and let's just lean ever so slightly to the right. Make sure you don't collapse through the right side body, so nice and long through the spine. Inhale back to center. Lean ever so slightly to the left, don't collapse through the left side body. Holding here just for a moment, maybe bring your gaze up a little, and then inhale, coming back to center. Exhale your hands, hinge at the hips, fold all the way forward. Take a nice, long, deep bend forward. You may wish to press your hands flat into the shins, lifting up to look forward halfway, finding some length through that spine, bringing the gaze forward. And then exhaling, folding all the way back forward. Let your upper body just ragdoll over your knees. Maybe even bringing a bit of a bend to the knees here. Check in with your breath. Check in with your heart rate. Did we increase your blood pressure? Did we get your heart rate going? Bringing your arms out nice and wide. Let's protect our backs. Sweep the arms up all the way, stacking vertebrae upon vertebrae. Let's come all the way back up to standing, hands above the head. Inhale, exhale your hands to heart center. Sweep the arms, lift the gaze. Exhale your hands back to heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms, lift the gaze. Keep them up there. Interlace your fingers, but this time, interlace them the opposite way. So if usually your middle finger is in front of your right middle finger is in front of your left middle finger, go ahead and deinterlace them and reinterlace them the opposite way. Reach to the right. Be careful not to collapse through the right side body. So keeping your spine nice and long, reaching through that crown of your head. Maybe bringing the gaze up a little bit. Take a nice long inhale on purpose. Exhale, don't collapse, keep the length there. Feel your breath moving. Inhale, back to center. Leaning just ever so slightly to the left, not collapsing through the left side body. Staying nice and strong. Maybe bringing the gaze up ever so slightly. And noticing if your shoulders are trying to compensate for the stress that you're putting on your system here. Noticing if you're holding your breath to compensate for the bit of stress we're putting on your system. Maybe lifting the gaze. Take an inhale on purpose, reach a little higher. And as you exhale, don't lose that reach. Stay nice and extended through this posture. And inhale, come back to center. Deinterlace your fingers, go ahead, hinge at the hips, fold all the way forward. Maybe grab opposite elbows with your hands. Wag through the hips a little bit. Dropping your arms back down, pressing your hands into your shins, or maybe reaching with the tips of your fingers down onto the mat to lift up halfway. Bring your gaze forward, look forward. Nice, long, flat spine. Exhale, bend at the knees, hips all the way forward, hinging. This time what we're going to do is sweep the arms nice and wide, protect that low back, lift the gaze, and this time coming up halfway but bending the knees into our chair pose. All right. Imagine you're trying to just hover your butt cheeks off of a gross toilet. You don't want your bum to actually touch the toilet. And experiment with where your arms are at and how that impacts your heart rate, how much load it puts on your system. Try having your arms lifted high and then lowering them down. And notice how that impacts not just your breathing, but also your shoulders. Keeping a nice deep bend in the knees. And then let's go ahead and lift our arms up a little higher. And just experimenting with what works for you. See how high you can lift your arms before the shoulders try to get involved. And whenever the shoulders start to get involved, that's the point where we need to lower back down. See what's sustainable for you. Now check in with your breathing. Are you holding your breath? Is your breath short, shallow, labored, deep, fluid? Notice the quality of your breath and see if you can feel your heart rate. All right, one last inhale, reaching up a little higher. Let's stand up nice and tall in this posture, even reaching the arms back ever so slightly. Get a nice little stretch through those abdominals. Let's exhale, fold all the way forward. Let your body fold down over your knees, bending at the knees. Take some nice deep sips of oxygen here. I should say some nice deep swigs of oxygen here. Let's just notice how coming down into this forward fold now impacts your cardiovascular system. in whatever way is comfortable for you. From here, I'm going to recommend that you bend at your knees a little bit, placing your hands in front of you, spreading wide through your hands, spreading wide through the fingers to protect your wrists. Go ahead and step your feet back, and we'll be getting into a plank posture here. Now, rather than starting in a full, our body's up off of the ground, I'd like to start with your knees bent all the way down, so bring your knees down onto the ground. Again, with your fingers spread nice and wide, stack your hands underneath your shoulders. And from here, let's just begin to either walk the hands forward or walk the knees back to prepare ourselves to get into a little bit of a plank posture here. And notice how that begins to challenge not just your cardiovascular system, but starts to challenge your shoulders, your chest, your arms, your back. And if it's accessible to you here, you may wish to curl through the toes, tuck them under, and press back through your heels to come into a plank posture. Alternatively, you may wish to stay on your knees. And from here, take a breath. Notice the sensations of breathing. Notice what it's like to be in this moment with your breath. And notice how this plank posture is impacting the way that you breathe, impacting your cardiovascular system. Wherever you're at now, whether your toes are up, your heels are off the mat, and you're in a plank posture, or whether you're on your knees, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and press back, placing your knees on the mat, on the ground, reaching your hands forward. Let's go ahead and take a resting posture, some child's pose here. You may wish to spread the knees nice and wide. You may even wish to take the arms and run them parallel to the body. Have a moment here to breathe. And once more, notice how this posture, this resting posture, now impacts your breathing, your heart rate. One last time, let's experiment with doing some plank posture here. So reaching the hands forward, spreading through the fingers, nice and wide through the fingers to protect our wrists. You may wish to, if you were in a wide-legged child's pose, you may wish to bring your knees slightly closer in together as we move into a plank posture on our knees. And just staying here, if it's accessible to you, curling the toes under, pressing through the heels, lifting the knees off the mat, and coming into our plank posture. Or alternatively, if you try that and it's not right for your body today, can that just be okay? Can you drop back down onto your knees and take care of you? Remember, day 11's practice isn't about pushing yourself to the max and doing everything you possibly can to be in that perfect looking plank posture. Today's practice is about noticing how yoga impacts our cardiovascular system, experimenting with getting our heart rate up, and paying attention to how that impacts our breath. From wherever you are in this plank posture, take one last breath in. Exhale, let's press back into our child's pose. One last resting posture here before we move on. And again, you may wish to spread the knees wide to do a wide-legged child's pose, reaching the hands forward or reaching the hands back to be parallel to the body. Whatever works for you. Noticing your breath, noticing how this posture impacts your breathing. bring a little bit of motion into our bodies, maybe reaching the arms forward, balling the fists, rotating through the wrists, even rotating through the forearms, maybe moving the head from side to side ever so slightly. We're going to finish this practice up. I'm going to invite you to come up out of this child's posture and to go ahead and place your mat against the wall. And if you don't have a yoga mat, remember, that's a-okay. But what we're going to do is place our right buttocks right up against the wall so that we can do some legs up the wall posture here. And notice how that, once more, impacts our cardiovascular system. So placing the right hip, the right buttocks right up against the wall. And so now your right side body here is facing the wall. What you're now going to do, and you might need to scooch just away from the wall a little bit. What you're going to do is go ahead and turn so that your legs begin to walk up the wall and your back is flat on the ground. You may wish to use a yoga mat to support your body, a towel or blanket, and especially pay attention to your low back. We don't want to create any issues here. With your feet nice and flat, the soles of your feet pointing up towards the roof. Your feet don't need to be directly together, but it's actually helpful if your feet can be in a relaxed posture with your legs, but where your soles of your feet themselves are actually engaged in this posture. And from here, using the wall to support your feet, let's just take a moment here to notice how this is impacting your breath. Choose any arm posture that works for you. Arms out, palms up, maybe your hands over your chest, over your abdomen. Maybe you have your arms cactused out. And without purposefully manipulating our breath, just notice what it feels like to breathe right now. Allow yourself to pay attention to how your breath moves in your body. I'm now going to invite you to purposefully manipulate your breath. So we've taken stock of what it's like to breathe naturally, and now I'm going to give you specific instructions on breathing in this posture with our legs up the wall. Go ahead and take a breath in on purpose, breathing in. Notice your body fill with air, and allow yourself to just hold that breath for a moment, feeling your body full of air. Breathing out. One more time, breathing in, but this time for 3 seconds. Breathing in 1, 2, 3. Holding the breath for 1, 2, 3. And now breathing out for the full length of 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Just pause here. Breathing in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, holding your breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now breathing out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just pause here. And one last time, breathing in, but this time for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now holding your breath here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just pause here for a moment. What is the movement of your breath like now? What is the quality of your breath like in your body? No wrong answers. Even if your response is, ooh, that created a little bit of an anxiety in me to hold my breath, that's okay. Pay attention to how your breath has changed and what your reaction is to that change. making sure that you have enough space around you to move your legs down off of the wall. You're going to go ahead and roll onto one side. I recommend rolling down over onto your right side, using your left arm to prop you up. We'll go ahead and wrap up this practice by me saying thank you so much for taking the time to do this practice with me. I hope that you enjoyed this. Don't forget to share it with your friends. You never know who could find some benefit in doing this 30-day yoga challenge in your world. I'm looking forward to seeing you for day 12 of our 30-day yoga challenge.